You are listening to the It's Your Time podcast, and I'm your host, certified life coach and career mentor, Michelle Arnold Burke. In today's episode, I'm sharing a conversation with emotions expert Rhonda Farr. Welcome to the It's Your Time podcast, the podcast where busy professionals like you get the practical solutions and support you need to gain control of your schedule so you can strive to be the best in your career, but without the stress and overwhelm. If you're looking to increase your energy and decrease your stress, you are in the right place. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the podcast, friends. Do I have a treat for you today? In today's episode, I'm sharing a recent conversation with emotions expert Rhonda Farr. And for those of you who have been here for a while, you might already know her from a previous interview. And for those of you who may be new, welcome. And if you're interested in checking out that first episode, it's number 117. And in that, we discussed a lot around feeling feelings. And in today's episode, we're going a little bit deeper and we're talking emotions, of course, subconscious work, healing, manifesting. So much fun. And we really wanted to set it up in a way that it was simply a conversation that we were having and you are able to listen in. We also discussed the science of what most folks consider woo-woo around manifesting. And we talk about how I was recently able to make a shift with a personal issue, and that was thanks to Rhonda's help. Now, Rhonda is more than an emotions expert and life coach. She is also a dear friend who I met in 2017 while doing the life coach school training to become certified coaches. And then we went on to do some additional advanced training, and we have remained in touch ever since. And we have these conversations just about weekly, similar to what you are listening to today. It lights us up. She also has 4 boys. Can you even believe it? Well, and her husband, so some may say 5 boys that she's taking care of, right? I don't know how she does it, but I so appreciate that she took the time to have this conversation to share with you because it is just brilliant. So, without further ado, let's hop on into the conversation. All right. Well, I am so excited to have you here today. And for some folks listening, they may not recall, but you were here for episode 117 last year when we talked about feeling feelings. And that was actually one of the top downloaded podcasts of last year. So I wanted to have you back. We talked about it on that podcast, actually, that you would come back and talk a little bit more. And so today we're taking it a little bit deeper. We're going to talk about some subconscious work, some manifesting, some thought work. But before we hop in, I guess, can you just start by telling people a little bit about yourself and who you help?
Sure. Thank you for having me. The things that you just said are all of my favorite things. So thank you for having me. I help people do all things with their emotions. I almost said like accomplish their goals, which is what they think they want. Most people come to me and say, hey, I've been trying to do this and I just keep getting stuck. Or every time I make some headway, I feel like I just fall right back. And I've been doing all the thought work, but for whatever reason, I just can't seem to get past this. So they come to me thinking they want to accomplish something in their business, in their relationship, whatever. But what we usually actually end up doing is we start creating a beautiful relationship with themselves. Now, some people, if I marketed that, they would say they want that, but most people don't have time for that, or they don't even know what that means. So it's a combination of understanding what's going on the inside, understanding your subconscious, understanding your nervous system, healing whatever needs to be healed, feeling and processing whatever needs to be felt and processed. And then the really beautiful part, we're going to talk about it today. I'm so excited. Most people don't care as much about this in the beginning, is a manifestation process. Now, when I work with my clients, I don't always call it that. I call it emotional creation, because when we heal and we feel and we process, then we get to create emotion on purpose, joy, love, gratitude. And when we can combine this emotional connection with whatever we want to create, whatever is out there in our future, when we can make an emotional connection with that, then we can create it, we can attract it, we can live it. So that's
Yes.
what I do.
It's so good. And I think it's always nice to use real life examples. So I will throw myself out there because I had mentioned this actually on our last podcast, how much you helped me around my work with not being a mom, right? And we did a lot of work then. But recently, you've done a lot to help me around something that I thought was totally not even a problem. Like we were talking about something work related, I think. And we said, why don't we just try this new, way of looking at things, because I've been so into the thought work and I'm always talking about the thought work. And I think for sure it's super important. But I thought that I had done the thought work around my biological mom and how she really wasn't there for us, right? When I talk about my mom in any given set, or area of my life, I'm usually talking about my stepmom who raised me. So you kind of helped me dig in deeper. And you talked about just now healing things like maybe a buzzword or a word that we hear a lot today is trauma, right? Big T, little t. So what do you think is the, I guess, part of the secret sauce of being able to get past the thought work to dive deeper into that kind of subconscious and healing?
I think it's being willing to feel really uncomfortable. So, Michelle, you're being vulnerable here. So, I think it's okay that I share this. I think how you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think how you and I got to that place with your biological mother is because we were talking about something in business. We were asking some questions. Your voice started to crack a little bit. And I was like, oh, there's something to that. If you'll sit with that, then we can figure out the source, where it's coming from. So then we hopped on a call separately, right? And we're like, hey, just feel that and allow your body to teach you where that's coming from. And it led us, of course, to mom,
Yes.
right? So being willing to feel really uncomfortable is where we start to understand ourselves better. Emotions, uncomfortable emotions, they're just information. They're an invitation that says, hey, the next layer of healing is ready to be done. I'm showing you, here I am where I'm at. It's an invitation to move closer to it so you can heal.
Yes. And I think it's so important because I think people who just start this work, the thought work part of it, want to just move on. Like once you learn, if you just think a different thought, you'll feel a different emotion. And that doesn't work, right? Because what you referenced in our first podcast was that idea of the beach ball, right? We just keep
Yeah.
trying to push it down, push it down. And for me, in that instance, the thought work was I just told a different story. And it's still a true story to me, right? Like I was so lucky that my dad is the one who like took us and I had my stepmom. All of that was the thought work, but there was still something deeper that had been pushed down and really needed to be able to kind of looked at. And when we talk about the uncomfortable emotions, we talk about sometimes the river of misery. That's it, right? It's like being willing to feel. And I think I had mentioned like it was ugly. There was like snot and crying, all of it. So bad. But that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, totally. And you said the word trauma, capital T, little t. I do use those words sometimes. I don't market myself as a trauma coach, but I'm going to offer a way to think about it that your listeners might resonate with. Because if I came up and said, hey, Michelle, do you have trauma from your mom? You probably wouldn't have been like, yes, I have trauma.
100%
But
right.
yeah, I like to think about it as an emotional, like Samskara is a word that I learned from Michael Singer. He's the author of Untethered Soul. And he describes a samskara. It's an Indian term, a yogi term. So if there are any yoga lovers out there, you might know this word. But it's just a trapped body of energy that's stuck in our body, right? And people will describe trauma that way too. But when they are describing trauma, they often associate it with some horrific event or something terrible, which I think is true, right? But we can think of any trapped emotion. So for you, you're like, I totally did the thought work and I believe the story, but my body kept telling me something else is going on. So you did a beautiful thing in thought work, like you. I love thought work. I teach it, I use it, I do it. But when our body keeps responding with that really emotional connection, that emotional invitation when something comes up, or like if our nervous system, right, just it just feels just off or whatever, we know there's probably something energetically some trapped emotion in our body. And we just need to release it. Like we just need to release it. It really is that simple. I'm not saying it's easy, but it is a simple concept.
And I think in order to understand that, when I first started coaching, it was more around the idea of to stop over drinking, right? People who just wanted to cut back a little bit more. And when we talk about that, if it's either over drinking, overeating, over busying, right? Like there's so many people I know that listen to this that are like workaholics, and that's like a busy badge of honor. But sometimes those are some of the signs that might be kind of to your point, like a little, hey, pay attention over here. Why are you not willing to feel whatever's going on?
Yeah, totally. And I will say this is the other thing I find with my clients too. For many of us, if we can intellectually understand it, so thought work, right? Like if we can see it from lots of different vantage points, it opens the body and softens the body to a willingness to do the deeper emotional work. So thought work's super valuable. I almost feel like it's just priming your brain, priming your body to understand why it's okay to feel while we work through it.
And I don't think a lot of people, I know when I first started, you had mentioned your nervous system and the importance of kind of paying attention to that and releasing the energy or releasing the emotion. I have to be honest, I don't know if when I first started, I really understood that. Can you talk a little bit more about like what is releasing an energy or an emotion?
Why, I'm so glad you asked. So, a lot of people who don't like to feel will be what we call
Hand raised.
disassociated. Yeah. We often get disassociated or disconnected, right? And so I will say, when you think about your mom or when you tell a story about her, how does that feel in your body? And they'll be like, nothing. I feel nothing. It's just not there, right? Because we literally train ourselves to not feel. And we're talking, 30, 40 years of this for many of us. And we think, oh, yeah, I just don't feel. So it's not important. I wish that were the case because then you could move on and you wouldn't feel stuck and you would feel totally satisfied and fulfilled. But what you've done is you've taught your body to turn off because you can't handle uncomfortable emotions. So that's the first thing. That's why most people don't understand it. But when we sit with something and we start to cry or we talk about it, like for you, you might have said that, like, oh, here's this emotion, but no, I don't feel anything in my body. No, you are. You're feeling something or you wouldn't be emotional, right?
Yes. And I think too, a lot of times if we start to feel that, we don't allow ourselves the opportunity to sit with it, right? Because that's when we think we need to go ahead and change the thought.
Yep. And you're teaching your body you can't handle an uncomfortable vibration. And so the more often you do that, just like you don't have to think about brushing your teeth anymore or driving home from work anymore, your body will shut that off before almost reflexively before you even have a thought about it. And so you'll be like, no, I just am not a feeler. I don't feel.
Oh, that's so interesting. That's good. Right. And that's another story that we tell ourselves that if we
Yeah.
continue to tell ourselves, we will just continue that process also.
Yep.
And I
So
love
just
that.
like we talked, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I love that you talk about uncomfortable emotions and not like negative and positive. Finish what you're saying, and then I'd like you to elaborate a little bit more on your thoughts about when people say negative and positive feelings.
Yeah. So I'll just dive into that. The negative and positive, I probably have said that before in my life. For sure, I have. So if you go to my old work, I might have been talking about it that way. But now what I know is your body is beautiful and it's always trying to help you. Maybe it's maladaptive in the way that it tries to help, but it's beautiful and it's not really trying to throw negative things at you. So when your body allows you to feel uncomfortable, think about physical pain for a moment, right? If your knee is starting to hurt or you have a place in your back or lungs that's starting to hurt, it's telling you, hey, there's something happening beneath the surface. You need to go get that checked out. We need to address that. So, emotions are signals, right? And if something feels really uncomfortable emotionally, your body's just saying, hey, there's something going on beneath the surface. Why don't we check that out? Most of the time, we can heal that and you can feel better and you don't have to walk around every day pushing against it and trying to avoid it and trying to like pretend it's not there, which is what I was going to say when we started, right? Like even if you're not feeling below the neck, that's
Yeah.
what people will say, like, oh, no, I don't feel. Even if you're pretending that it's not there and reflexively you turn that off, it's still there. Like if we take Tylenol for an abscess in our knee or whatever, the abscess is still there doing damage, growing, getting bigger. Even if we numb the pain, like we could do a spinal block and full on not feel anything below the waist, right?
Mhm.
Doesn't mean it's not still happening. So I think that's important to know.
Yes, absolutely. And how do you walk clients through? Like, let's say you have someone who says, like, I'm not a feeler. Where do you have them start? Like, you talk about just giving the time to feel it, but like, what's your process?
So it depends on where they're at and how non-feeling they are. But here is my litmus test, right? I will have somebody, we'll explain intellectually why it's important, why it's valuable, so we can get their brain on board with at least trying and practicing. I like for them to have the thought, it's possible that I can figure this out. It's possible that this will work for me. And when I start to feel, my life can open up. I won't feel stuck anymore and I can really accomplish those goals. So, first of all, thought work. We want to get there. But second of all, I just have them take a few deep breaths. It's super simple. Your listeners can do this at home. Close their eyes. And the reason I like to close our eyes, my client's eyes, is because it just blocks out some of the senses, right? Like we don't want to have a bunch of noise going on, the visual senses. We want to just focus inward. Take a few deep breaths, literally just drop the shoulders an inch or two. Open, I like to pull my shoulders back to open the chest, signal to the body like I'm willing. And then I will guide them through a process of just kind of scanning. Some people call this a body scan from head all the way down to toe. And once they're super relaxed and they're scanning their body for where they might feel any sort of sensation, usually they can tell me, well, I feel a little tightness here, or I feel a little pressure there, or just a little bit of buzz here. And then I have them say to themselves inside their own mind, welcome. They're talking to the emotion now, which sounds a little hokey woo woo, but I promise you, you're going to have to trust me on this one. We just talk to the emotion and say, welcome. You're totally welcome to be here. You have my full attention. I know I've been ignoring you, but now I'm listening. And then from there, we just follow the sensation. Does it start to move more? Does it start to get tighter? Does it loosen up? If I could describe it with color or shape, what would that be like, right? Before we try to change or move anything, we are just letting our body know that we want to get to know it, that we're okay when it feels really, really uncomfortable. And then we go into further process. But for most of my clients who are not used to feeling, that's where we start.
And that is exactly where I started. I think it was hard for me initially to be like, okay, just to be quiet for that long, right? Just to like
Mhm.
be with myself for that long. To your point, that's why you don't really sell it that way because people are like,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm too busy for this. But it can tell you so much information. Eh,
Yeah. And for your advanced listeners, I just want to offer this because there might be somebody out there who's like, oh no, I totally can feel and I know it's there. Take it further, right? Like once you start to feel that, just ask the emotion, ask your body, what is this energy called? Is it sadness? Is it grief? Is it anger? Is whatever, right? Like ask what it's called. Then perhaps ask, where did you come from? Like, where did you start setting up shop in my body in this way, right? What are you trying to teach me now? What do you want me to know? For those of you who are somewhat familiar with feeling sensations in your body, I promise you, you will be surprised at the answers that you get. Your brain will just come up with thoughts and ideas, maybe even a picture or an image. I know that happened with you, like a picture or an image of some part of your history or past telling you where it came from and why it's here.
And it was like you said, I was like, where did this picture come from? I'm not even sure, but it was probably just because it had been pushed down for so long. And what it led to was just such a fascinating piece of information about how I thought you couldn't be yourself and you couldn't have fun or people would leave you, right? Like it was just such an eye-opening aha. And then I think what is great that you also, kind of further question is like, where does this now show up in my life in all different areas, right? Like taking that to the next level.
Totally. You brought up something really important. Sometimes your brain will give you a picture or a thought or words, and you're like, that's out of left field. That doesn't apply. No, no, no. Let me come back and let me try this again. Trust your brain. Trust what it gives you when you're in these moments. Because, like you, Michelle, there have been times I've been like, that doesn't apply. That's weird. You're being pretty vulnerable here. So I think it's okay if I say it took you back to this childhood thing, right? Like when you were so small and it seemed like innocuous and even like a happy memory almost.
Yes.
And then we zoomed in and we're like, yeah, it was happy in some ways. And then it taught me these specific things, right?
Right. Yes, totally. And then you had mentioned we're going to talk about manifesting. So I think this is a good kind of segue because you've talked about the importance of feeling the feelings, of knowing what you're feeling, right? Kind of paying attention to that. So then you can go ahead and start manifesting and creating feelings in order to get to the next goal or to create something new in your life. And now I want to make sure people know because we have talked a little bit about some perhaps woo-woo stuff, and manifesting is sometimes under that umbrella, but we're not talking about, I think people get it wrong when they think about The Secret and you think like, oh, I just need to like sit on my couch and wish for some good looking man to show up at my door and then they all of a sudden appear. And that's not how it works, unless of course it's the Amazon delivery guy, right? So
Or your husband.
or oh, right answer.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about maybe where people get manifesting wrong and really how it can totally change your life?
Okay, I have so many thoughts about this. First of all, if we try to create positive emotion and quote, manifest on a pile of grief and sadness and shame and self-doubt, it doesn't work very well. So just a quick answer about that. That's why we go in, we get to the core of it, we heal it, we feel it, we process it. And you don't have to have all of that done before you can manifest. Sheesh, we're never going to have it all done, right? But if we're daily feeling like crap and trying to pretend that we feel amazing and create and attract these beautiful things in our lives, it probably won't work. So that's number one. But the second thing is, I just had a conversation with my 19-year-old son last night about manifestation. And I was just talking to him about like, I want you to see yourself in these situations. I want you to feel what it feels like in your body, which I'll talk to your listeners about in a moment. That's why we can't be like creating on a pile of shame, because we want to feel that amazing feeling that we believe we're going to feel when we get the goal, right? That's how we attract it to us. But he was saying like, yeah, this manifestation, this woo woo. Sometimes I hear people say that. And I said, well, first of all, people do call it that, and I'm okay with that. But what it actually is science. This is quantum physics, and it's proven science. You and I both are fans of Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think you gave me the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. So I want to attribute that. You sent it to me in the mail. But in that book, he explains it very simply why it's quantum physics. It is literally something called the observer's effect. You can Google that, but I'm going to butcher this a little bit. So read the book and Google it. But basically what it is there's all kinds of matter and it's unorganized, right? And quantum physicists can see that matter is out there. But when they will look at it specifically, right? When they focus on this, when they really observe it, the matter collapses. It pulls into matter, right? These particles collapse into matter. So the observer effect tells us if we can see something, the matter starts to organize and collapse into form.
Yes.
Literally, as a human, you are a creator. I'm religious, so I like to think of myself as a co-creator with God. I teach my kids faith, and we can talk about faith in a million different ways, religiously, spiritually, whatever, but I teach my kids faith is creation. When you believe something that you can't see in your reality yet, but you can feel it in your body and see it in your mind, that is what I call faith. And that is literally a co-creation with the universe, with God, however you want to think about it.
Mm-hmm. And we hear about that a lot, even if we talk about, sports athletes, right? Visualizing is the same idea. And they visualize winning the gold and they visualize the ski run or whatever it is. And everybody thinks that's kind of cool. But I feel like sometimes when we go on the back end of coaching, it's like, that's a little woo-woo. Like, no, it's all the same thing.
Totally. It's all the same thing there. And you know this because you're bringing it up. There are studies that show basketball players who shoot free throws in their mind and shoot them in the gym, at the court, when they practice that way over and over, they have about the same rate of improvement.
It's so crazy, right?
It's crazy.
It is so, and I think you had mentioned like when we think about, and I mentioned this because I recently did a presentation where someone was asking like, how can I feel more fulfilled? Because they were talking about I'll feel better when I get there, right? And to your point, it's not, we have it backwards. It's not that we feel better once we get it. We have to start feeling that now.
Yeah. So I like to say, and I think that I founded this thought off of something that Dr. Joe Dispenza said. So I want to give him the source of this thought. But I like to say it's so much better to work from your goal than toward your goal, right? If we
Mm,
can see it and feel it and hold that in our body now, we are working from the goal, and it feels frigging amazing the whole time, not just when you get there. It feels
right.
amazing right now today while you're creating it.
And one of the tips that you gave me early on was even if it's just that you start with a timer for like 1 minute or 2 minutes, right? Like, what can you tell the listeners if they're like, what are they talking about feeling it ahead of time?
Yeah, good point. There's two ways to do this, and your listeners can decide which works better for them. So if you think about your goal and you get lit up inside, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to be there. That's so amazing. Then what you do is twice a day for 3 minutes each time. This is how I started. I set a morning and evening timer on my phone. I would stop what I was doing and I would think about this thing that created this abundance, this love, this gratitude for the goal, right? And I would feel that twice a day for 3 minutes. Super simple. That's how my life literally started to change. But here is a little caveat warning, call it what you will about this. Some people who haven't done the emotional work yet, I'm going to add, will think about their goal. And instead of it lighting them up, they'll have thoughts like, well, I'm never going to get there. I'm unworthy. I don't deserve that kind of money. I don't deserve that kind of recognition. I don't deserve, right? And it might be self doubt, guilt, shame, judgment, whatever. And so they try to visualize the goal and it's a big wah, wah, wah. It doesn't create love and gratitude and joy, right? So here's what I would say for those people. Number one, you need to do some emotional work and get to the core of things because that's exactly what we're talking about. You'll try to do this manifestation work and it just doesn't stick. But number two, I'm going to give you a little bypass maybe so you can do the emotional work with the manifestation work. Don't forget the emotional work. I can't stress that enough. But here's something that you can do. Whatever brings you the feeling of peace, love, joy, and gratitude. For you, I know you love your puppy Tucker, right? If you need to, for those 2 timers when they go off at first, think about Tucker and think about what it's like to have him nestled beside you, petting him loving you. If you need to start by just feeling love and gratitude in any way you can, do that. If nature lights you up, picture yourself in nature, feeling the sun on your face and going on your favorite hike. If you have like a favorite little niece or your own child or whatever, picture yourself holding them, looking into their beautiful, innocent eyes. I want you to start feeling love and gratitude on purpose consistently because what you're doing is you're training your body to feel good. Our brain is naturally hardwired to look for the negative. Evolutionary speaking, right? Because it keeps us alive to notice problems. I want you to practice teaching your body to feel amazing on purpose because it doesn't do it naturally left to its own devices.
Right. And I think, one of the things also when I was kind of early on, Oprah would talk about writing the gratitude journal. And so
Yeah.
I wrote my 5 things every single day. I was very consistent, but it was more like my checklist of to-dos. And I never really sat in the actual gratitude of what it was I was writing down. Right. And that's kind of missing the point again.
So there's a difference in intellectually knowing and feeling in the body, just like we talked about before, thought work, emotional work. Same thing when we're creating emotion on purpose. We can write it intellectually, check it off, we did it. And that's good. That's valuable. Those of you who are out there doing that, my goodness, Oprah said it. Do it. But take it to that deeper level and practice feeling it in the body. Here's the other thing that I hope it's okay that I belabor this a little bit. Here's the other thing practicing emotion on purpose does. It gives you a contrast. So when you're always in negative thinking, it's just like rinse and repeat every day. That's what we do. And we don't even notice. But when you have just those 3 minutes or 6 minutes, if you're doing it twice a day, of feeling that positive, the next time you get really angry at the driver in front of you or that the pup tracked in mud and ripped up the couch or whatever, instead of just following hook, line, and sinker into that and letting that dictate your mood, you're going to notice like, oh, that feels more crappy because I'm also starting to feel positive emotions. And then that's our cue to decide where we want to stay, where we want to keep that energy and that vibration. So it gives you a contrast, but it's also teaching your body how to do it. The more often you feel love, gratitude, all the things, I promise you, you're going to be able to bring it up in a second eventually. It's going to teach you how to create it.
Isn't it true that like the love and gratitude and joy are some of the highest feelings on like the vibration scale? Is that right? Am I saying that correctly?
You totally are. So our bodies are energy. Again, that's not woo-woo, that's science. That's how we can do x-rays, right? Like these radioactive scans and screens. We can show where the heat is. We can see our organs. Your body is energy, and literally emotion can be measured. So when you are in excitement and love and joy, the vibration of your body can be measured at a higher rate. When you're in resentment, anger, those are some of the lowest vibrations, especially like resentment and shame and loathing, right? Those are the lowest. So it's okay if they're there, by the way. We just want to know they're there and be able to process them, heal them feeling. Please, please, please don't beat yourself up over this. When you wake up in the morning, I do this sometimes. I want to tell myself just for a moment, I'm actually really good at this. I'm not trying to boast, but I practice it a lot. I'm really good at this. And there are some days, like if I've gotten into a little tiff with my husband,
Your
or
sweet husband,
my sweet husband, who I love dearly, or if I have a little something with my kids that have just totally taken me off guard, and I feel like disappointment, maybe some shame in myself as a mother, like I didn't do a good job. If something like that has happened recently, and I'm like, okay, here's my gratitude practice, there will be times that I still can't get there, right? Like I have to address what is first. And that there's nothing wrong with you for that. That means you're a human with a human brain and human emotions, and it means nothing else. So just know, even when you get really good at this, there are going to be days that happens, but it's not going to be like, oh, I suck, I can't do it. It's going to be like, oh, I can't get there today. There's something going on inside of me that needs to be addressed first. And I totally know when I do that, I'll be able to get back here, and that's okay. It's just a lack of judgment when we start to know how to do this and what's happening.
Yes. And it's almost like spirals of growth, right? Like there's always these lessons that keep coming back around for us and coming back around for us.
Totally.
Yes. So good. Is there anything else that we've missed that you want to make sure people know about?
I think I'll give an analogy that goes with your spirals of growth because I think it works. We have this dog. We've never had an indoor dog before. He's a year old now, but it's been an adventure learning this past year.
And may I just pause and say that you also have 4 boys. So it's a busy house.
Our house is freaking crazy some days, but in a fun way some days too. But yeah. So we have this dog added on to all the bodies and all the mess and all the stink in the house, right? And I'm like, okay, we've got to train him a little bit better. So I took him to it's called puppy training agency or something. I don't know. So I took him to this little arena for puppies, and I'm teaching him to sit and stay, and he's doing the things, right? But when I get home, he doesn't quite know it as well. And I'm like, what? But what had happened was in that arena, with help and with he just knew okay, here's where we do these tricks and things. And he was following hook, line, and sinker. When I got him home, I had to reteach him inside. I thought, oh yes, we got this. I took him out to the yard. Okay. And I'm trying to do the things. And we had somebody working on our neighbor's house. He beelined for them. He's running around their house. I'm yelling. He's not doing my tricks. He's not coming back. Right. I haven't even taken him to the park yet, but I guarantee you, if I take him to the park, other dogs, kids everywhere, noises, all the things, he's not going to listen to a daggum thing I say, right? Here's what I have come to believe. The brain is like a little puppy. The emotions are like a little puppy. When my clients are sitting with me on this call, it's like they're in the arena. And I'm talking to them, I'm guiding it, and they're like, "Yes, I've got this. It's working." Right? And then they go out into their relationship or in their job, their parenting, wherever it is, right? And they're like, "It all flew my mind. I just couldn't do it." Right? Well, we have to train in that arena, right? And then they might take it out into their self relationship and loving themselves. And they're like, "I can do it with other people. I just can't do it with myself." Well, you got to train in that arena, right? This is a process and your life will continue to up level your game. But that's okay. It's normal. It's how it's supposed to be.
I think that's such a great point because, when we think about the life that we've created, it's based on the habits that we've had, right, over time. And so, to your point, if this is something new that we want to create in our life, it's new habits, it's setting the timers, it's feeling on purpose, it's processing the emotions, it's really like shifting what we've known that has gotten us here to get us to the next level.
Totally. And it's being kind to yourself as we enter new arenas and new depths. The other thing is, right? Like I could have a client on a call with me and we could process the emotion of them burning dinner last night, right? Something rather benign. But then for them, even if I'm on a call with them, if we start going a little bit deeper and we start processing the emotions of unworthiness in their relationship that they've had for 20 years, that might be harder. And they might be just like, "Rhonda, I can't get there right now." And then once they get that, I might take them deeper and say, "Yeah, what about how you felt about yourself since childhood?" And usually these things overlap, right? But what I'm saying is, however you get to that arena, whether it's in different facets of your life, different depths of your life, different, like, am I on a call? Am I inside my house? Am I in public at the office? Just be kind to yourself and know that this is a skill and a practice and we are learning, and it's normal for you to struggle. It's normal for you to not do it right every time.
And
And
that's
that's
okay.
okay.
Yep.
And that's okay. Yeah, totally. I don't know if we talked enough about the emotional relationship. I know we've gone on for a long time, but perhaps it might help your listeners also to just know what that means to develop an emotional relationship. Here's the way I like to think about it. When we're creating on purpose and we're bringing thoughts of our goal into those emotions of love and gratitude, that's what I call creating an emotional relationship with your goal. So the moment you see it, that's like the creation process has started in the way I like to think about it. We're collapsing that unorganized matter into form. Then when we start to feel love for it, gratitude for it, we're creating an emotional relationship with it. Then the way we grow that is we use our tools. When we have a day that something comes up and we can't feel that, "Oh, let me process. Oh, let me use the thought work. Oh, let me use that." So, as if we were growing anything in the garden, let's go for that analogy, we use our tools. We weed it, we fertilize it, we whatever, right?
Water it. Mhm.
Yeah, that is creating an emotional relationship. We see it. We want to see it often. Can you imagine being in a relationship with somebody who never wanted to see you? Gosh, that'd be
Mhm.
terrible. Then we feel emotion on purpose toward it. Then we use our tools to cultivate, nourish, nurture, and then we do it over time. We don't just create a relationship with somebody and say, "Oh, I felt really good with you that one day a long time ago. This is the best thing ever. Be a perfect partner to me. Always want to be near." No, we don't do that. Court your goal.
Oh, I
Create your
love
goal.
that. Court your goal. That's so good.
Yeah.
That is so good. And as one other, as you were talking, it brought up, we want to make sure we're focusing on what we want, right? Not what we don't want.
Yep.
And
We're
what's the importance of
processing.
that?
Yeah. So when what we don't want keeps coming up, that's a little sign that you need to use your thought work and your emotional processing tools. Good
Okay,
point.
perfect. Yes, focus on what we want. There's so much out there. And, Rhonda and I, for those of you listening, when we first started coaching, we were like, there's going to be one day when we just say, all you really had to do was believe, because that's what we kept hearing from our coaches, right? And now we're like, truly, that really is the answer.
That is such a good point. You know what, Michelle? As you said that, I just had the thought, like, it's so true that all we need to do is really believe. And that was true then, but I couldn't make it work because I didn't know how. So even if something is true, if we don't know how to do it, It doesn't work for us. And I spent a couple of long, sad, frustrating years believing that belief would work, but not knowing how to do it.
That is such a great point. And that's why I wanted to bring you on, because I feel like you have led the way with that, with the feelings work and really helping me to be able to see, because like I'm sure many people listening are the overthinkers, right? Like, I can just do this thought work. Tell me what to do. Take the action, take the action. I'm believing, I'm trying to believe, right? I'm trying. But it was missing the component of the feelings work, which is everything.
Totally. I get so fired up. I could talk about this stuff forever. I love it so much.
Right. We're going to have to, I think we should do like a beach retreat one day. Let's put that out into the universe where we can actually have people come live. That would be fun.
Let's do it. We'll do the thought work. You're a corporate gal, like you will guide them in every angle of that. We'll do the emotions work. We'll do the creation work. Oh my gosh,
How
love it.
fun would that be? Yes. In the meantime, though, where can people find you? Because really, Rhonda has so many great Instagram posts, like free information for people to just listen. But how can they follow you, find you, work with you? All of the goodness.
Oh, thanks for asking. So if you go to Rhonda Farr _coaching, you can find me on Instagram. And there is a link in my bio that will take you to my website and some of my resources. But if you go to rhondafarr.com, there will be a pop up on there and it gives you a 4-part series if you sign up for that little mini series. And it's all about creating a magnetic energy for your goal and really understanding your brain and how the brain and body work together. So it's a 4-part series. And I'm a little biased, but it's phenomenal. People on the call said, you literally, this has changed my life. So
100%. I've done it. I cannot speak highly enough for it. It was phenomenal indeed. Yeah.
oh, thank you. So please go get that free course. There's no obligation. Like, I'm not going to try to sell you on anything. It's totally free. You get direct access to it. If somebody wants to take it further and work with me, you can find me. You can DM me. Also, there's a link to my scheduling page on my website. Um, so yeah, thanks for asking.
So good. All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm so happy that you were here.
Thank you. I've loved it. Thanks for having me.
Okay, that was a lot packed into one conversation. Like I said, we have so much fun talking about it, and we could just keep going on and on and on, but we will have to save that for the retreat one day. Now, be sure to check her out, Rhonda Farr _coaching on Instagram, and rhondafarr.com for the free course that she mentioned. I highly encourage you to check that out. I'll have all the links in the show notes. It's all so good. Now, I want to just let you know that I'm going to do more of this coming year. I really want to share some other folks here with you, folks that I know are solid folks that have amazing information, because I do believe when you can hear things in a different way, something might just click differently, and that might be exactly what you need in that moment. So I am going to share more conversations like this, and if there is a topic that really lights you up, feel free to send me a DM, and I will work on getting someone here that is able to help talk about it more in depth. Now, that, my friends, is what I have for you today. Let's circle back next week, but for now, make it a great day. Take care. Did you know you can take this work to a deeper level with me one-on-one? Go to michelleburkecoaching.com and click on Get Started to begin.